Giggity,
Woot
giggity.
woot.
We are back again. And my name is Bruce. With me today is Six Nations, 31 Kings, and Janet from another planet. I'd like to welcome everybody. We had a second part of the documentary you watch, In Search of Tomorrow, that was made in 2022, shortly after Ivan Reitman's death, which is probably the part of this portion of the viewing that I really struggled with the most as just a casual consumer of media.
I'm glad to say when I looked it up, though, he died in his sleep.
Yeah.
So either sleep is deadly or he passed away relatively unscathed at the age of 75.
I hope y'all make it to 75.
It wasn't died suddenly or turbo cancer or all that other nonsense we got to deal with right now.
Nothing makes me happier than turbo cancer, let me tell you. Just the thought of like going from completely fine to within like 48 hours, that kind of gives me hope and fear. Anyway, I know.
I'm sure he wasn't fine. You just didn't know he wasn't fine.
He looked like he was not ailing from anything, but you could tell his health had started to go downhill from his days filming Stripes.
Well, my mom looked perfectly fine, and then one day she just took John to see, and we took her to the emergency room, and they put her on IV and stuff, and then we took her to a specialist because they couldn't find out what was wrong at the little hospital she was at, and found out she had what is that, pancreatic cancer, and it was quick, and she had surgery and all that stuff. So I'm just saying, you can be perfectly fine one day and then be sick, but have something that's causes you to be sick really quickly afterward.
Yeah, I don't really want to go there. We're supposed to be talking about the
Yeah, well, go ahead.
In Search of Tomorrow.
About that. Yeah, I wasn't as impressed with the second half as I was with the first half. I don't know if it was because of the movies they chose to talk about. A couple of them I'd never seen, but the ones I had seen, I wasn't real impressed with. So, what did you guys think about the choice?
But they also did a bigger bang because, like, the early '80s, there was a crap ton in just a span of like 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you get up that slope and you go down, and then it's all the little hills afterwards. Like, they did touch on some really good subjects.
Well, yeah, the music score is definitely, to me, I say that a lot when we're talking about lots of movies, that if you have a really good score, it either pulls you more into the movie, especially scenes that they're trying to make more dramatic or sad. It's like they said, parts where you'll cry. The music helps the emotions flow throughout the movie, and if they don't go with whatever's going on screen, then you'll get jolted out of the actual what's going on. It takes you away from the movie, and I think that hurts it in the long run. But the one guy, he was saying that you hear this dun 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 dun, dun, you automatically know what movie it goes to, and they just don't do that anymore. They don't have full orchestras anymore to and get these wonderful people to write this music, iconic themes like they used to. I just don't think it's going to be a big thing anymore. I wish it would. I wish they put more emphasis into that, besides making it all techno and, a computer generated soundtrack, which I just don't think is as appealing to human emotion as an orchestra and a human coming up with music.
I gripe about today's musical scores quite a bit. It's kind of if I was more well known, it would be a meme. But ever since The Dark Knight came out in 2008, musical scores have just hit a nosedive. They've completely gone to shit. And I haven't bought a score for a movie except for the Avengers 2012. That was the last score of a film I bought because
I definitely bought the Galaxy Guardians of the Galaxy ones. They've been good. Good
because
music.
I've got a subscription to YouTube Music. I haven't bought a score. I bought music, but it's not OSTs for anything. And usually I'll buy an OST because the choice of video games I play, the first-person shooters, the boomer shooters, the pixelated shooters, they are all synthwave or Andrew Holsholt. He's really fucking good. I'm not impressed with the music since I think it was Horner did the Dark Knight in 1988 with the long, like just blowing his trumpet for 40 seconds, and that'll be the score, cut, print, release, and it bores the shit out of me listening to music today. The movies they did, 86. I'll start with 1986. They talked about some good ones. They talked about Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home and Aliens. Both of those movies are.
Well, it was the second Aliens.
Yeah.
The one with the little girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Aliens is very much a woke script talking about the Vietnam War. Because we have these fucking Marines. They're fucking Marines. We outfit them with everything. They get railguns. They get a giant spaceship. But they get slaughtered in a dark hallway somewhere because why? And it's just James Cameron bitching about how did we lose the Vietnam War? Why did my friends have to die? And I get that. This is also the same year that Platoon came out. And I think America was in love because of Platoon. We fell in love with talking about the Vietnam War again. I think maybe it might have been that or Hamburger Hill. But we had a whole run of Vietnam War movies in the 80s. Do you remember that? Yeah, that.
Yeah, Platoon, Hamburger Hill, Full Metal Jacket. Then we had those TV series like, what was it, China Beach and
Tour Duty.
And Tour Duty, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
it wasn't
there was
so
a revival.
much the fact that they talked about those movies. It was the fact that the people they interviewed seemed to just dwell on women this, women that, whammon. That's all, I got sick of that shit, because the Vietnam War wasn't filled with a bunch of women getting their asses blown up,
But we had to celebrate Ripley, don't you understand? And
well,
we had
I understand that Ripley was in the movie, but the one movie that came out with aliens didn't make every woman a hero, a superhero fighting aliens in all the movies. You know what I mean?
I'm just glad that they didn't mention Hanoi Jane.
Yeah. So I just got that part of the second half is what things like that is what took me away from the wonderful storytelling that was in the beginning part of it. I mean, there was little bits here and there in the first half of the documentary, but it seemed like the second half was just overwhelmingly. And I love Julie Brown. I love her as an actress and some of the things, but boy, just listening to her go on and on about her vision of what she wanted America to be. No. I'm glad it isn't. I'm glad I don't live in her realm of what she thinks the world should be like, or some of the other women that they interviewed, because I'm definitely not a bra burning, pussy hat wearing woman that thinks that men don't belong on the planet. I think there's room for men and women, and I think there's entertainment that's good for men and women with action in it, and it doesn't all have to be women running around blowing shit up. It has to be a good story, to right off the bat. I mean, to me, if they get back to telling stories and entertainment, I think we'll be a lot happier as viewers to buy tickets.
Hi, Ronald.
She was married twice.
This is Chairman Z. I want to make sure that Janet's Samsung refrigerator completely locks her out until she stops talking like an Americanized person. She needs to be reliant on the agenda. Samsung will lock her refrigerator up. Thank you. This is Chairman Z.
Oh, I'll try. I can't help it.
That's the
I
agenda,
love,
though,
I
Janet.
love
The agenda,
80s movies. And
the agenda is celebrate woman. Don't focus on the fact that Queen Latifah cannot run in the Equalizer TV show. Don't focus on the fact that she can't fight her way out of a wet paper bag. She's a woman. Believe her.
Yep. While man
Celebrate
making
woman
war.
while degrading the woman at the same time.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand it. So where were we? We were talking about soundtracks, and then they talked about strong female leads.
It was very detailed, though. The factor that I love the fact that they all talked about how much they loved using real music and orchestra and stuff, and writing an actual music for the themes of movies, because the theme goes along with the movie. You remember when you hear that dun 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 dun, you think of The Thing, you know. When you hear dun 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 dun, you think of Jaws. I mean, it's just the music goes, and you just instantly the movie comes in your head. Name a couple movies that are out right now at the movie theater, or that you just heard in the last couple of years that would happen when you heard the music. Not much. There's no bells ringing, but Ghostbusters theme, Star Wars theme, Star Trek. I mean, all these different movies that came out.
Spaceballs.
Yeah, Spaceballs. I mean, it's sad that, you know, The Thing, there was just lots of music that we heard it and you knew what movie it was from. You don't have that now, because they don't even, I mean, do we even have composers anymore? I mean, it's been forever.
Not really.
So when I bought
It's all
tickets,
sampling and auto tune.
when I bought tickets to go to the Star Trek convention in Las Vegas for 4 days, on Saturday night, it was going to be a black tie affair where they were going to have the orchestra there, an orchestra playing the music from Star Wars, or Star Trek, I mean, for the people, for the gala. And I was real excited about going, and everyone else that I was talking to is excited too. It's just that, you know, we're slowly cutting out real entertainment, and next thing you know, it's going to be nothing but computer generized whatever. It's going to be written by computers. It's going to be acted by computer generated people. The music's going to be made up by computers. And that's one reason why I love independent stuff, like the movies that you've brought to me about, you know, Darkness Rising, things like that. I laughed. I loved that movie. It was so entertaining because you could see the work they put into it, how much they loved what they were doing. It was just, and it pays off when it comes to the reality and how a person connects by watching the characters and how they react on screen. So I hate to see that. We're going to lose that in the future if we don't fight to keep real entertainment as entertainment, you know?
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. There's a lot of really good movies that they kind of skipped over. 1986, like they focused on the two big movies in sci-fi for 86, and that was Aliens and Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home is the anti-Reagan-esque Save the Whales movie. I mean, it's okay. The Star Trek films of the 80s are fantastic stories, but don't look at the politics of it, because then you go down the rabbit hole where, like, well, the Wrath of Khan was about mutually assured destruction, and Search for Spock is actually talking about more than just, you know, raising the Vulcan's best son for the Enterprise again. It's actually talking about, you know, the morality of such a thing, and should we even go back for our best friend? Just your eyes start to bleed.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, remember, wasn't that directed by Leonard Nimoy?
Yeah, and he
right?
kind of,
it was a product of its times.
The fourth one directed by Leonard Nimoy too. And the reason why is because he had a more woke agenda with his script writing. You know, so the people that were backing it with money, people that were backing
combine the two.
The money, they're the ones that were pushing the woke agenda because that's who they wanted. So you could already see towards the end of the 1980s that the woke was really starting to creep in. And I really didn't look at it that way because I was very selective about the movies that I watched in the 80s and 90s. So I didn't see it as much, you know. But with watching it the way we saw it today and last week, man, I could really, it's like getting slapped upside the head by all the wokeness that they were pouring into the writing and the way they handled it.
It's funny that we can look back on it and go, oh, yep, like here's where the shift is. Because like in 86, when I was in grade school, I think fourth grade or something like that, we adopted a whale, and I think we called it Luke Spyhopper or something retarded because kids. And then that Star Trek movie came out, and it dealt with whales, and I was like, oh, that's a funny coincidence. Now, you know, almost 30 years later, I was like, that was the social conditioning going on in the zeitgeist of culture right there.
Did you did you I'll skip that question. Do you guys think of any other films from 86 could qualify as discussion material? Because
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, well, that's not sci-fi though. I mean, that's my favorite movie of all time, and I wouldn't disagree with talking about that. We've already done it for 1.5 episodes, but I mean, that's obviously my favorite.
Sci-fi. Okay.
Yeah, it was like sci-fi fantasy in a way because of the way the story was told.
It's much more fantasy
than
more
sci-fi. Action.
Yeah. Action fantasy. I would lump that into like the action stars movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's obviously a great Kurt Russell, John Carpenter. There's not a movie that compares to it.
The thing is that if we
the Manhattan Project,
if we keep going the way that we're going, I don't know if there's going to be anything left. Everybody be going to the old stuff to watch it, rewatch it, and try to get it. They'll be trying to get copies that are no longer available, you know, because the government said that they deemed they were, you know, whatever, against the law, you know, like books. Like what was it? The movie I want to watch is the one with Denzel Washington, and he's blind.
the Book of Eli.
Yeah, the Book of Eli. You know, basically how, you know, nobody has books anymore because they've all been outlawed and stuff. They've been destroyed.
I wouldn't even consider that movie to be sci-fi. That does have some elements of sci-fi, but that is such a character movie.
No, I'm talking about that's where we're headed. Yeah. We're headed to a government that, like what Disney's done with all their movies, they went back and destroyed classic movies to put in woke agendas, you know, and change it. Like E.T., they took all the guns that the guys had on their belts and made them into walkie-talkies and flashlights, stuff like that. So you're not even seeing the authentic art that was created that we got to watch when we were young, you know. So now we're seeing fake.
They glazed over a lot of movies in '86 because you had Shopping Mall, Space Camp,
Time Bandits that came out in the 80s.
From Beyond is technically sci-fi, but it's also horror. Sci-fi.
That's right.
They covered Howard the Duck. They didn't cover Critters. That had aliens.
That was really a good movie too.
Mm-hmm.
Between that
And Maximum Overdrive.
when was Invaders from Mars released? 86 or 88?
I want to say it was 88. I could be wrong.
Was Killer
No, it was
Clowns from
86.
Outer Space? That came out in the 80s, didn't it?
Invaders from Mars was 86. Killer Clowns from Outer Space was 88.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
I was
right. That's right. I watched a lot of Invaders from Mars when I was a young kid. I was really surprised how much I loved that movie. And that was one of those films that got released on a syndicated television station, like just a year and a half after the theatrical release. It should have been a year and a half later, just now getting to Blockbuster, but it seemed like they shortened the time to get movies from the first run theaters to the Blockbuster because they had to make their money. They like, we got to get it, got to get it, got to get it. And they forced him to keep the money train flowing in. Don't let them forget about this movie, you know. And once they discovered that things like Big Trouble in Little China didn't have to be big box office successes, the studio could make millions of dollars through Blockbuster and Family Video. They really changed their tune because for a while there in the early 80s, they looked at video rental stores as the enemy.
Yeah, it was like, we're the poors.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was interesting was the fact they didn't talk about a few of the movies that I would have brought up, like They Live, you know, I guess because it didn't set in the genre or the point of view that they seemed to have went, the direction that they went into. It was like they did the first half of the documentary to pull you into it, saying, "Oh my God, I can't wait to watch it," you know, because that's how we all were like little kids in the candy store. We were so excited. I just was so into it that nothing existed around me because I was just so happy to be watching it. It was so good. Just seeing all the memorabilia and hearing how they did the creatures and the makeup and the costumes and the sets and all that. I just thought it was great. I definitely am going to watch that again. But the second half, it seemed like they were afraid to close out the movie without pushing their agenda at you first. You see?
Which is why I think that you're onto something. And we did not see any love. We saw very minimal love to our favorite director, John Carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
Because after 86, he basically went, fuck you, to the big studios. And this movie here, or this documentary here, as much as the first half is so good at wrapping us in and pulling us in and having us just view it and just go, oh my God, the feels, the retromania. As much as that is, the problem is that the final half of it got super preachy about shit. Mm-hmm. And not even things that I would even consider like we need to talk about it. Because we've been talking about the woman believe all women bullshit for the past 7 years now. When did Annihilation come out? Because I remember that was the big studio movie that was supposed to come out and show us that women can do everything because it was female led, females behind the camera, female editors, female everything.
The movie that movie, the Ghostbusters one with all the women, I didn't even watch it. Okay, but the thing is,
that doesn't exist.
Yeah, but the thing
that movie doesn't exist. I don't even give a shit about it.
Okay, but what I mean is, during that whole thing, and proof is in the pudding. They didn't make money. They made no money. Okay, the whole Dylan Mulvaney bullshit proves that kind of shit being crammed down our throats. We say fuck you, basically, and we don't want to buy your shit. We're not buying your shit, so stop giving it to us. And they lose money, but they keep doing it. That I don't understand. How do you, when you have a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine makes $1 billion, okay, you think that all of a sudden they're all going to say, hey, all that shit's going out of the window. We want to make money. That's what we need to do.
Money is an illusion. In a Marxist society, everybody has what they need. They're given their portion. They do their job. They worship the state. So these studios, they can lose hundreds of millions of dollars on shit movies as long as the people that are giving them the credit scores and whatnot that they need to function, as long as they toe the line with their
I
politics.
If you and I, which I think we already know that that's going to happen, is that we keep supporting movies like Wolverine and Deadpool and other movies that we see that we love, okay, or even streaming services that make the content that we want to watch, and we buy their shirts and their shoes and their hats and their memorabilia dolls or whatever it is that we spend our money on, their posters. Over time, I really do believe that it will make a difference, that these companies that are supported by other companies like pharmaceutical companies or whatever, and when they start seeing that we can't keep you guys up anymore, we can't keep floating you because we're losing our shirts and our people are not investing in us anymore, then we'll start seeing a change. But don't buy the tickets, don't buy their shit, and stop and turn the channel. That's the only way that we have a chance of making a difference. I want to see stuff like They Live, The Abyss, which I thought was really pretty damn good. Movies like that, or like the what was that one that we were talking about? That the kid that won the video game, The Last Starfighter.
Last Starfighter.
You know, movies like that just tell us a story and bring us in, and we're rooting for them. You know.
I like the nod that they gave to.
I loved that movie, and it didn't have a woke agenda, I don't think, even though the lead character was a woman. You see, they didn't cram it down my throat. I don't know. I'm just saying, they can put women in shit and make it good without having to feel like I have to get a plunger to get the shit out of my ass. You know what I'm saying? Because they've been cramming.
I like the fact that they gave a nod to Akira, which for most folks is an obscure anime.
Me too.
And an even more obscure comic. Mm-hmm. But they failed in 86 Dimension Transformers.
Oh yeah. Because that
was a big
clean hero movie. You know, it had real basic heroes.
I would go with clean. I remember my mom.
They killed off like half of the toy line, and it traumatized kids, and then they had to retcon everything for the new season of Transformers that followed. But
I thought you were talking about the cartoon movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Transformers cartoon movie was fucking traumatizing for 11-year-old kids, because
you go and collect the die-cast models, and then the plastic ones which were all right. They weren't as good as the die-cast ones. But then you get your little collection of Autobots and Decepticons and whatnot. Yeah, you get your Devastator and Omega Supreme if you were lucky.
Yeah.
But
and then
the movie came out.
Yeah.
Tell her about
and they murder off a bunch of people.
The fucking the script completely, like, they went to war, and the first 2 minutes of the movie, like, the original Transformers, Jazz and somebody else, got their fucking chest completely blown out, smoked. And you've been watching these cartoons, playing with these toys for like 2.5 years, and kids start being taken from the theaters by their parents because they're bawling and they don't want to watch it anymore. Mm-hmm. And this was a thing in 1986. It actually,
the toy companies were like, we need a new line of figures. So let's get rid of the old and bring in the new.
And so they bring in a new one with a new script, or they bring in new Transformers. But the Transformers line got hurt by that movie. Mm-hmm. And a lot of kids didn't want to play with their Transformers anymore. It took, like, therapists made money on a cartoon movie in theaters in America. I could not believe it. And my mom's church group said not only did they have wanton violence and death, but there was cussing in this movie. So you know what? I didn't get a chance to go see this film until I was like in my high school years, drive myself to Blockbuster, pick up the movie on VHS and take it home and watch it. And really, aside from the death, the movie was not that good, I thought. It had a good soundtrack.
I blame Care Bears. The Care Bear movie. Like, that was a well done movie. It showed that a cartoon could be made into a movie. That wasn't Disney. That wasn't, anything else. And they made bank. So then G.I. Joe and Transformers are like, shit, they got a leg up on us. We got to make an epic movie. We got this new toy line going on. What are we going to do? We're going to kill off Duke. We're going to go kill off Optimus Prime and all these others. And then when we do the new season, we'll have all these new figures and new stories and da-da-da-da-da. And then Transformers bombed because the kids were crying. And so G.I. Joe's like, quick revision.
They hurt themselves, okay? Because if you're going to make a movie and you're going to want to sell toys and T-shirts and more movies, for them to buy to have at home to watch over and over again. Kid's not going to buy a movie when the hero dies,
Yeah.
So
that's why they had to retcon everything going forward.
See, that was, to me, that was part of the woke agenda, because we need to kill these guys off. They ain't cool anymore. See what I mean? So we want to come up with new people that have a more up-to-date version, that type of thing. Like the same people that say that the Constitution is out of date, right? Those people. That's who I'm talking about. Sorry, I brought politics into it. But you had movies like The Wraith. Was a Charlie Sheen movie, and I don't really like him, but I thought the movie was pretty good. There was lots
that movie
of movies.
Yet, and I want to.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's really good, and it's a sci-fi. But the thing is that I wasn't happy with their choice of movies to close out the documentary with.
No, they're 86.
They did not pick the
movies.
top best movies that they could bring up. The first part was great. I mean, Tron. They went to so much detail about how the actors had to stand and act, and with how they made the costumes, all the different things like that. This one was kind of like glazed over. They spent more time talking to those three women about how much they hated whatever's going on in their life.
Well,
So
if you don't like those women on that documentary, don't go read their Twitter, because I did that.
I don't. I definitely wouldn't.
And oh my fucking God.
I want to remember the way I remember from the movie.
After we get done with this stream, I'm going to go to the shower and rub myself with Old Dutch baby oil with the picture of Ronald Reagan on it. And I'm just going to just go saturate myself in some good 1980s stuff and get my fucking common sense back, because I read Angelique Roach's Twitter, and it's one thing to have a mindset, to have an agenda. It's another thing to put the splash photo of your Twitter as to Kamala Harris.
Oh, Jesus.
She's completely, I can't look at her seriously. I don't look at anybody seriously that has Donald Trump on their Twitter either, because as much as I love Donald Trump, it's been burned in my brain. I'm immersing myself too much into the politics. So I got to be like, listen, I need to step away from you just a little bit, because you're everything Trump, and I love Trump. Don't get me wrong. I bought a shirt, kittens and ducks for Trump, because I believe the shit going on in Ohio. I've met people from Haiti. I know people from the DR. I know the fucking rate of percentage of people that are from that island that practice voodoo, that involve themselves in rituals where you need to cook and eat your own food that you find out and about. That's kind of their culture. And American stupid leftists don't understand that. And that's fine. That's okay. They don't understand anything. They don't understand anything common sense. They seem to think that they don't need to fucking go hunting. You can just go buy a cow at the store, right? You can go buy your steak at the store.
Those people, though, the ones that are not looking at around them and seeing what's going on around them, they're just living their lives. They're the ones that are going to go to the store and they're going to buy the printed out meat.
Yes.
Take it home and cook it and eat it and not complain about it because they have food. So they don't care that their milk is made out of worms. You see, dried worms, and they make powdered milk out of it, stuff like that. They'll eat the shit. Okay. It's people like me that want real eggs. I want real beef. I want medium raw meat like a naan, because I want real food. And if I have to move out to the country to get what I want, then, I'm willing to do it. But there's a lot of people that don't want to give up this Uber this. And whatever at the snap of their fingers, and they're the same way with their entertainment. I mean, they don't care. They're
Not them.
pretty
They're
much
making fun of
take
me.
whatever shit is on TV and they just eat it up like it's good shit, I guess. I'm picky. So
I get
I
it.
will refer the audience to the 24th episode of the 3rd season of Twilight Zone,
what was it?
To Serve Man. It's sci-fi related, so it kind of segues into this discussion. So they get visited by aliens. The dude that plays Lurch, this big, bald-headed alien. They give him a book. They give them all this technology. Then they start taking people to show them their homeworld. And when they finally translate it, one of the main characters in the story, a scientist, he gets pulled onto the spaceship as they yell out, "To serve man, it's a cookbook." And he realizes, oh shit, they just came to pick up people to make some interstellar barbecue. And so he's refusing to eat in his little cell on the UFO. And then
So
finally they
and bony.
well, he figured I'm just gonna starve myself so they won't have anything to eat. Like one last FU, but then he finally breaks down and eats the little TV dinner that they gave him. But it was a well written episode of the Twilight Zone, and it makes you think. Yes,
They still reference it today. In if you go to game stores or conventions, you'll find old men, grognards as I call them, graybeards, and that'll be the one thing, like one of the few episodes that people will immediately start talking about. That or Death at 50,000 feet, where William Shatner sees the little gremlin ripping wires out of the airplane as he's flying along, which was later remade for the 1983 Twilight Zone movie with the guy from Third Rock
John
from the
Lithgow.
Sun. Yes, John Lithgow. Amazing show, an actor. But see the original version first, because William Shatner really sells it. I know that sounds really weird to hear me advocate for Shatner.
As cheesy as Shatner can be, like, I love his work.
I love him. I got to meet him in person, so I love him. I don't care what goofy stuff.
Devil's Reign, Kingdom of the Spiders.
I mean, like 2010, when the year we made Contact, that was a good movie. I mean, now I've never seen Mac and Me, and maybe that's why, because people were telling me, "Hey, this movie sucks. Don't waste your money." Because tickets, were pretty cheap back then. But
Yeah,
I've never.
I saw the tape, and I never picked it up. I looked at it, and I was like, "This is not going to be good." It's just something. My gut, my spidey sense was tingling. It was saying, "Don't pick it up." I'm glad, because when they did the review, and it was.
Do you like E.T.? Do you like E.T. the Extraterrestrial?
I liked it. Yeah,
we're gonna make E.T. for you again, but with 1/4 of the budget, and
Timu.
we're never. It's Wish version of E.T.
Yeah, and everybody gets to eat hamburgers.
I want ET. We got the ETV. I don't.
I'd rather smash my dick with a hammer than watch Mac and Me or Batteries Not Included.
Hey,
I would rather watch Batteries Not Included than Mac and Me.
Was good.
We all right.
I don't think I saw
but
Batteries Not Included.
That's under duress. Like, there's a reason why I only watched that once.
With Jean-Claude Van Damme, it was like he was
Cyborg?
Yeah. You seen that one?
I love that movie.
Many a time.
They didn't even mention that movie. That wasn't even, looked at. I mean, there was just so many things that seemed like they just glossed over. I don't know. They missed out on a lot of movies, I thought.
I want to say Cyborg was 1991.
Was it?
That's a time sensitive movie.
I want to say it was 89, but it was released a year later or something. Because they had that whole thing with the eye injury with the knife.
See, Cyborg was a 1989 movie, but I didn't see it till 90. I don't know why.
'90s was a magical time because
Yes.
you know
I mean,
you're
I wouldn't
you're a
mind seeing
teenager.
another
You can rent your own movies, get your own video card.
And I need to have Janet watch Nemesis with me.
What is it?
Oh
Nemesis.
yeah,
Oliver
Nimitz?
Gruner, Nemesis, Oliver Gruner,
Nemesis.
Tim Thomerson, Kerry Hikaru Tagawa. It's
I
a
haven't seen that.
cyberpunk movie. There's like 4 of them,
I
and
bet
they're
it's
made for
pretty
about
good.
$100.
But
if you
yeah,
like ponytails and you like trench coats and
Oh my
cheesy
God.
sci-fi,
So many
I
trench
do.
coats.
I love trench coats. I own a few. I've made a couple.
Yes,
But
certainly.
there was I don't know. I just felt like it was more rushed. I felt like it was more rushed. They didn't get to have as much time to put out the details unless it was those 2 women, the 2 women, Julie Brown and the girl that played Vasquez, whatever from
No, you
Alien.
had Julie Brown, Vasquez. Then you had the 2 black ladies. One was the one at Sci-Fi Wire, and the other one was the fucking psychologist that told you how to think.
Well, the one that was from Sci-Fi Wire, I didn't think she was that bad. I thought she was pretty good. She seemed very professional, and she well, I haven't read her Twitter. I'm talking about from the movie that we watched.
Okay.
well, if they're on a magazine, chances are that magazine's going to be shit anyways.
But the thing is, I thought
Prince
she
is
did a
dead.
good job explaining her portion of her point of view of certain things that they were giving her to talk about. And I thought she did pretty good because you want to hear different points of view. You just don't want to hear and have it sound like, here, open your mouth, feed you. You know what I mean? And
Not a narrative.
I don't like that. I don't like
Points of
when I
view.
feel like I'm being forced something. That one movie that I really love, Powder, I felt like by the end of that movie that the director's point of view was all that mattered. It's all he cared about. He's like, I'm going to make you watch what I think should happen instead of trying to tell a story and let us view it and take from it what we want. So, that ruined the whole movie for me because I felt like I was being pushed, and I don't like that. I hate being shoved in a movie to one direction or the other. I feel like you lay it out and you let us, take off the buffet what we decide we want, and I like it that way better. But everybody sees it differently. But that's how I felt a little bit towards the second half of this, because the first half I was like begging for more because it was so good. I thought.
Yeah, the first half was fantastic.
Yeah,
but in the second half, it felt like there was an agenda being shoved, and
definitely
I wasn't really too keen on it. That's why whenever I was talking about it, I was really excited at first, and then when I saw the second half of it, I'm like,
Yeah, I'm wondering if in the filming process, because they're doing individual interviews before they splice it all together to make a whole. I'm wondering if they started out really strong, and then somebody was like, "Oh, hey, you need to mention this more," or "We're getting off topic here. We need to go this route."
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. To me, most of it seemed more towards editing, that the editor took a lot of stuff.
Liberties.
Took a lot of liberties and made sure certain things were pushed and other things were not. I mean, I hate to say that, but I see that in so many different things. An editor can ruin a movie, can make it or break it. We saw that with that one movie that they tried to ruin, basically, because they were all fighting with each other. The editor for that movie, the Pirates one with the space herpes. There was a lot of mistakes in that because the editor just went, whatever. You can tell. And it's sad because if you have good editing, a good score, and good direction and actors, you're going to have a hit. I mean, it works that way. Even if it takes time to make the money come in, you will make money off of it. A well-made, well-rounded piece of art always brings in numbers. And people go back for seconds or thirds when it's good. And when it sucks, just like you said about Transformers, the parents get up and leave and take their kid screaming home and then they don't buy any shit for it.
That movie killed the entire franchise of Transformers for the time, because they had a third season come out, and it was set in the future, but you had very limited robots printed for toys. You had Omega Supreme, which was supposed to revitalize the brand, and it was this giant track with a train or a tank that rode around it, and you had to transform it, and it would actually walk once you got it transformed right, but it was poorly implemented. That fell apart, and it was over $100 in 1986 or 87, and therefore that entire line kind of just died right there.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a lot of money. That was like $250 worth in today's money or something.
It's actually closer to about $300 to $500.
$5 now. Oh, yeah. With the inflation.
Was losing money. And so that was when they put out the Flag, the aircraft carrier that could hold like 6 of your Sky Strikers and other toys.
Kevin, if you're out there watching on the interwebs, I hate you. I really, really hate you.
Now they did do a good job at talking about the movie, the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger and the alien creature, Predator. Okay, yes. They did a really good job at breaking that down, giving us some information about how hard it was for them to film certain scenes, and the Running Man. They did good on that because of the person they were interviewing to give us the information wasn't cucked. I mean, that's the best word.
Did they talk about Jean-Claude Van Damme being the alien at first on Predator on this? Or
yes, I can't remember. On the first half. On the first half. Yeah, not on this side they didn't.
Yeah.
Because I saw a separate thing where they were talking about the problems with making Predator, and then you see the outfit. I was trying to think, did we see that last time, or was that the other thing that I saw?
You look like a little praying mantis.
Been,
but the fact of how big the guy
Ranger
was,
Predator.
Yeah. He was huge. The guy that was in the Predator costume, and I mean, kudos for the people that made the mask and everything, and how they made it work and everything, and the hard work it took for the actor to make you just shiver when you see him, in his costume. But the way he portrayed the alien Predator, right? It was just phenomenal.
Easy.
It was so good. People don't realize how much more harder it is, because I knew a few people that were on The Walking Dead and did some other movies, that had to wear lots of prosthetics and stuff. And that's a lot of work. And the whole time you're sweating, you're itchy. I mean, you got so much going on, and you just have to overcome all that to be whatever it is that you're portraying. And it's really important, I think. When you get a good actor that can portray a character. And even all the shit they said bad about the movie Howard the Duck. I remember watching Howard the Duck, and I laughed my butt off. I remember going with a bunch of my friends and watching it. It wasn't at the movie theater. We went to a party and watched it, and everyone was laughing their butt off. It was really, really funny. And when you go to see a movie like Howard the Duck, you're not expecting the duck to look like a real duck. You know what I mean? So I don't understand the way that they.
My dad took me to see that at the theater, and that first opening scene with the female duck in the bathtub.
Yeah,
he looked over at me and he's like.
I totally forgot about that.
I had no idea.
But I just thought it was hilarious. But the thing is that it's from a comic book, and anyone who's read Howard the Duck comics would not want to take their kid to see Howard the Duck. Just like you wouldn't take your kid to see South Park, the movie. I mean, I was shocked when I was standing in line. That's how many kids I saw in line with their parents. I'm like, why are you bringing your kids to this movie? Well, it's a cartoon. I go, but haven't you watched South Park? Not really.
It's more akin to heavy metal than it is to like Goof Troop or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just thought they did really good in some aspects of it. Maybe it was because I'm a little biased towards the few people they had speaking or doing the interviews, but it just seemed like those two women were giving half the movie, basically. Half of the interviews were them two speaking, and almost all negative.
Well, what about what about our favorite cuck, Wesley fucking Crusher?
Oh, him too. But yeah, he sucks. I mean, he just sucks. But we all expect him to suck.
I love
You know what I
you.
mean? But I mean, nobody I know that watches any Star Trek ever looks at him and says, "Oh, he's awesome." Nobody.
Oh my God, he's such a manly man.
I mean, I don't even know a person that bought tickets to go see him at a con. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know any of those people. But the thing is, I didn't expect anything from him. So I just glossed over his, you know, little points of view and stuff. But when the two women, we're talking about two major movies that I liked, I don't know. It kind of, you know, it's like taking an ice pick and slowly popping a balloon real slow. So it just kind of, you know, the air goes out of it. That's how I felt kind of when I was listening to Julie Brown talk about her movie that she helped write. I don't know. So I won't be able to look at it the same way if I think about what she said and how she said it.
I'm not going to watch that movie unless I'm forced to watch that movie.
I won't make you watch it, but I loved it. I thought it was really good. I laughed my butt off. And I'll sing and dance along with it because it was just fun. It's a fun movie, and that's how I looked at it.
Yeah, like the movie that they really focused on a bit was Predator from '87, and I don't remember them saying much else because that really wasn't a banner year for sci-fi movies. Let me go to the top here.
I like the fact that he said that they looked at different masks and stuff, you know, when they were talking about that, and they went into the other movie with the alien, and there was a James Caan movie, and he had a partner, which I hadn't seen that either.
Alien Nation? You've not seen
Alien? No, I haven't seen that. I didn't really like James Caan. My mom loved him, and I just thought he was a dick. Okay, I don't know. It was something about the way he acted. When my mom would watch the movies at home, I was like, I just didn't like him. And I don't like his son any more than I liked him either. I think they're both just like Charlie Sheen. I really don't like Charlie Sheen that much either. I don't like his movies. So
you can't.
Sorry.
I mean, if Charlie Sheen's on a movie set, there's got to be like, all right, we have to have nobody with their phones out recording shit. Please don't be uploading any footage unauthorized to the IG. And so it turns into like Wild West stuff.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of what they did year by year. I think in the final half of this, they really fell apart. Like they focused on in '87 mainly maybe two movies, and that was Spaceballs and Predators. Predator. That was it. There wasn't anything else they really looked at with a critical eye, and there's a lot of good stuff. Oh wait, they looked at Inner Space, but they didn't really go in depth as to what made Inner Space great.
They only had the one person. See, I remember it seemed like in the first half they had like 2 or 3 people for each movie they talked about, and either they talked about the sets or the design or the storyboards, how they came up with the actors, why they chose these different people, stuff like that. Okay, with the movie, each of the ones they talked about this time, they had one person say a few things about it, and then they would go into detail if the 2 movies with those 2 actresses, and they were like gave them, you know, the whole schmeal. They were pretty much the only ones that talked about those movies. But I would have loved to have seen a little more of the back and forth with the couple, like Predator. I would like to have known more about the costuming part of it and the makeup and why they chose certain actors. Now we did have the one wrestler, you know, they got to talk about the different things he got to do when he got killed, you know, when they got shot.
Jesse, the Governor Ventura.
Yeah, when they talked about the squibs going on, how hard was
the entire movie fell apart
to make it look like how they were killed, things like that, you know, other details into the movie, the magic of movie making would have been really nice, but it seemed like they dropped the ball in the second half.
Yes.
All the fun, exciting things they added to the beginning part of the movie with all the details for each of the movies that they brought. When they zoomed in, you were like getting excited to see him talk about it, even if it wasn't a movie. Because when they were zooming in, it was right next to the Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and I was really excited. And they didn't go to it; they went to the one beside it. So,
well, technically, that's a
part about it,
horror movie, but it is a sci-fi horror movie. They could have talked about it.
Outer Space.
They gave a little bit of time to Predator, but Predator, the main part about Predator that you have to understand was they started filming in the jungles of Mexico. Mm-hmm. They had a guy in a rubber suit that didn't like being in a rubber suit, and he's causing problems on set. What?
He was a huge guy.
No. This is the first guy, not the second.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Was the first alien in Predator, and
that's
right. Okay,
poor guy didn't know what was going on.
He's really good in No Retreat, No Surrender. That's his first major role. He plays a hell of a bad guy. The only other time I think he played a good bad guy was in Expendables 2.
But he was mad because he didn't realize he was not going to be seen. See, he thought it was going to be seen. So he was pissed because he went just like what the Mandalorian shit. The Mandalorian doesn't want to be the Mandalorian because he doesn't want to wear a mask. He wants everybody to see who he is. And that's not the Mandalorian. So they picked the wrong actors. But when they got the new actor, he was happy to do it, and he did a kick-ass job.
Hey, Cotton.
Not everybody can be Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
So what happened afterwards, Henry Cavill or the guy that played Dredd in 2012, I can't think of his name.
Oh, Carl Urban.
Carl Urban.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite Kiwis.
But the Predator came about as a classic because as they're on a flight back, they're talking. Stan Winston is involved with a conversation. I believe it was with James Cameron. Cameron says, "I've never seen an alien that had the right mandibles,
like an insect,
and we need that, and we can do it. We have the tech now. Look at everything we can do with the little toys that we can put on the facial prosthetics." And so this is an 86, 87, and
they salvaged a situation that could have been really bad.
Yeah, that movie got saved by conversation because they had already thrown the money at it. They had already taken care of a lot of problems, and it turned from a total poot screw with fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme, and instead it turns into something. It turns into something much worse for Jean-Claude.
Well, he was such a stuck up, I guess, stuck on himself at the time.
Yeah, he was stuck on himself. He was trying to become the big guy in Hollywood, and this is before No Retreat, No Surrender came out, and he wasn't anything more than just kind of like a personal trainer or somebody that you saw as an extra involved with martial arts scenes. You know, he might have been a fight coordinator or something, but he wasn't anything worth a shit. And so
it was echoes of like Bruce Lee. You know, that whole, Bruce Lee's dead. What do? We go make fake Bruce Lee and try to milk it for what it's worth. And then everybody is expected to be Bruce Lee from then on. It was kind of like that. So if you thought you were hot shit and you knew some moves, or had some sort of past glory, try to get into an action movie. There's tons of action movies going on.
So that movie got saved, and they should have talked about that. Because there's a lot of times when you make a movie where you have a critical error popping up and things could really go south, and instead you turn that moment into a gold or a black coal moment to diamond, and it works so well. That movie fucking that the Predator film from '87 is still looked at as one of the high watermarks of sci-fi, of horror, of suspense. And for me, prosthetics and special effects. Even though the cloak effects of that movie are a little bit outdated today, I think that film still works on such a high level.
Yeah.
They should have talked about that. And I feel like they dropped the ball there. And that's the start of the complete just it went to hell. That documentary was sailing pretty good, 86 hits, and they don't talk about the other films that came out that year. Okay, fine. 87, Predator, and like then they start focusing more on a bunch of the social issues, which we understand that sci-fi writers write sci-fi because social issues are a thing in our head. So we got to write about save the whales. We got to write about like how we can save the planet. Well, let's make fucking Soylent Green people.
Mm-hmm.
I really have a problem though when the social issue is bigger than the movie itself. When you make a movie about social issue behind and it just completely destroys any enjoyability that the movie might have. Luckily, Predator didn't have that. Aliens really doesn't have that. It is about the Vietnam War, but it's not so much that it strangles you like we got to figure out why we're dying. It doesn't do that to you. It could if you analyze it too much, and it'll ruin that experience for you. But I really enjoyed the movies they discussed up to that point. When they start talking about Earth Girls Are Easy, that's a cute movie, but I don't want to hear Julie Brown. Julie Brown's boring as hell to me, and I don't mean to dismiss her like such
that was one of the things that I was shocked that they put in this because Gina Davis and her at the time, lover in real life were the stars in that movie, and so she got knocked down a notch because she was trying to push her agenda to be the star in it and to get producers and stuff to produce it. So the fact that she gets top-notch actors like Gina Davis in her movie, and I don't know how much money it made, but the thing is, she said she got more money than they were willing to pay for her, right? Yeah. So she was pissed off, and the fact that they let her say those derogatory things about Gina Davis in this documentary and it was put out, I'm shocked.
Yeah, that was a part about it that part of me thought like, where's the editor on this documentary? Why was that made public?
It's the cattiness of Hollywood.
Yeah, it was very, I don't know, it's very cheap shot, very unprofessional for her to do that. And I don't think she ever would have said that, 20 years ago for sure, or however long ago this movie came out. The thing is that I was shocked that they let her put it in it. You know what I mean? Is it because Gina Davis has basically stepped away from movies for a while and she's not been verbal enough for the left or something that they left it in there? So I was just surprised by that. That surprised me a little bit. And Jeff Goldblum and her aren't together anymore. So, I don't know. I just thought that whole thing was just ridiculous.
I don't like Julie Brown. And I know that probably if she was in person at a party, we'd probably get along well. We'd probably laugh or something. But I just don't find her to be an entertaining individual. And I know that sounds kind of catty as is, but I just don't find her. I don't want to look to her for new information that I can't already find on the internet. And when they gave her more time and minutes on this show, I wasn't valuing as much. And the second viewing that I did today, I was like, yeah, the first half is gold. The second half.
One thing that I thought was interesting was the fact that if you look at it, you go back and look at the people that you see that make those kind of comments about other actors and actresses that help make their movie a success. You know what I mean? When they're derogatory about them like that, and they say certain things and they push a certain agenda later in their career, even though they didn't really have a career. Okay. What other movies was either one of those women in? You know, both the women that they used the most were not prominent actresses, and neither is Will Wheaton, basically. You know, he's known for a couple things he did when he was a kid, basically, but what has he done since? You know,
basically, Stand By Me and The Curse was Will Wheaton's best work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I just think it's funny that you don't see people like Dennis Quaid or Goldie Hawn, someone who's made a career out of making movies, talking about specific actresses like, oh, Julie Brown was in my movie and man, she sucked. You know, she did this and she did that. She was a piece of shit, or what, you know, you see what I'm saying? Because they have class or whatever you want to say. They're not that kind of person. They're not going to stand there and say shit like that. Why do you think that when certain people say certain things about people running for office, they stay out of politics, they stay out of certain things? Because all it does is hurt you, because you have people from all walks of life that are buying your movies or buying your music or reading your books, you're buying your products. If you stand up there and you badmouth half of your people, you're hurting your industry, you're hurting your product. So to see that come out that way, it was just, I was not expecting to hear something like that. Even if she doesn't like her, you know, I don't know. I just thought that was something that's not a good thing. You just to see that.
Very, I thought it was really classless.
Yeah, it was definitely.
There is a couple movies in the '88 that I'd be happy to talk about. The main thing that '88 had for me was Alien Nation. We talked a little bit about it. James Caan, Mandy Patinkin, Terrence Stamp. If you've never seen it before,
great movie.
It's a really good buddy cop movie with a very realistic layer of racism and bigotry. And it's probably one of the last films to actually have that as one of the major components in it.
Address it in a way where it's not preachy or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they don't go into that. It's just a fact of life. Everybody has to live with it. You have aliens that are now on Earth, and we have to get along. And it's very different type of film that you would expect in that era, because a lot of times movies that were made sci-fi, if there's aliens, we got to come blow them up. You know, we got what was it? Invaders from Mars. We had the Critters movies. I mean, all these movies are coming where like the aliens came to the farmstead, aliens got destroyed by Mama with a shotgun. And this movie here, the aliens came and they were introspective. They were trying to be deep. They were trying to be pleasant. Like, we know this isn't ideal, but we're going to try to work with you because we don't have a choice. This is it.
One thing I thought was interesting about the little bits that they talked about, because I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen the series and I hadn't seen the movie, but it seems interesting because I do love anything with aliens. And I thought the alien look of them was very mysterious. I liked the costumes and stuff. But what was weird is you got an alien that's a police officer, a detective. That had to have taken years. And they're still talking about why are we letting them live here and stuff on TV. So is that because it's a timeline through the movie when they were doing that? Or is that
don't want to have you don't want to have a population in an area without a representative of that population as some form of authority, which is one of the main problems we've got with the immigration thing going on here in America. If we're going to have all these third world areas that are being forced on us, so we give enclaves to people from Syria, we give enclaves to people from Shitstan, or we give enclave to people from Haiti. We need to pick out certain individuals from those populations, be like, you're fucking responsible for these people here. And you need to be responsible, meaning if they fuck up, if they cause problems, we're going to come down on them. We're going to come down 4 times as hard on you, because you're supposed to be an authority figure, a leader, and we're all supposed to get along here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how you would have proper integration. Now, you don't want to give just...
That's how it's supposed to work, at least.
yeah, you want to have good people integrated into a police force and brought up to speed on laws and morality and how to do judgment and how to have discretion. So you're going to have to fucking throw them into a speed line of doing stuff. So you might not do it right, but there's real grievous errors in that. And like I'll say the big one was from like 2017 or 18 when there was a lady in Minneapolis that she was complaining to a cop about something, and this cop was from Somalia, and he shoots her in the stomach and she died. She was making a formal complaint about a problem in the neighborhood, expecting him to fix it because it was of the population he's representing. Instead of him going and taking care of the situation and be like, it's okay, man, we got it. Blam! Right in the stomach, and she dies. That's not exactly how you want this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I would worry that would happen more if we had such shit policies from such shit political individuals running our nation. And right now with our nation, I'm surprised we have as many people alive as we do. Because if it was up to Washington and their fucking incompatibility with common sense, half of us would be dead right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just Bruce and his box. Hey, Devontae,
It's not far off the mark from
you want to
Alien
go?
Nation, though.
You want to go somewhere? You want to fucking mano a mano with me? Anytime, anywhere, you got it. I'll fucking school you, and I will fucking throw you in that wood chipper feet first, and you will not have to worry about typing on a keyboard, you little warrior bitch.
Yeah, you'll never see him.
No.
Probably lives in mommy's basement. Hate to say that, but he probably does. But what were some of the other movies they talked about? There wasn't very many.
No, there wasn't.
There was The Abyss.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, The Abyss. Did you guys like The Abyss?
It was cool.
I thought it was pretty good for a sci-fi movie. And the whole
I was more interested when I saw the behind the scenes making of later on.
Yeah, I thought it was really
like the
good.
movie was good, but like the way that they did all the practical effects, CGI was like, okay, computers, not really interested. But the practical effects was awesome.
Yeah, I remember when I did get to watch it, the part that I had the hardest time with was when they put that mask on him and they had him trying to breathe in the liquid oxygen or whatever. And a lot of people were, after the movie was out, they were all talking about that's real. They really have that. They have that technology and all this stuff. I just thought it was horrible. And I asked my dad about it. He said he'd never heard of it. So I didn't know. I thought that was just really scary. But, you know, in the future, maybe they could have something like that. But it was, to me, that was very scary, all of that. Because remember what I told you, that part I told you about when I was swimming around that old barge and I saw the head of that fish come around the edge and it looked normal. Then when its body came around, there was no body. And all I could think of was dying, you know, down there by getting eaten by a shark in one bite, basically. Drowning is one of my hugest fears. And I think a lot of people have that. So, and claustrophobic or whatever. I don't know if I could actually ever wear, you know, snorkeling is one thing, is I have freedom of, you know, of movement and all that stuff. But to wear one of those suits for those people do when they weld underwater for deep sea, you know, when they do those big things to drill for oil and stuff, that was really scary. So to me, that was one of the scariest parts of the movie to me, was the drowning stuff. It was horrible. But it was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
What's odd is that they spent so much time in the first half talking about Cocoon, but they didn't talk about the sequel.
They didn't talk about a lot of stuff. That's why I feel like the editing really lapsed. They basically just dropped the ball on the second half. I was expecting so much more, just to you know, counteract what we saw in the beginning, because it was so good. I mean, I dreamed about it for days and how good it was. I know I talked you guys' heads off about how wonderful it was, and I couldn't wait to see the second half. And I was just, it was just kind of sad, you know, because they did have the same girls in the beginning interviewing. talking, but they didn't run and run and run and run with it for some reason. So I don't know. I just wasn't as impressed with the second half of it as I was the first.
I like Alien or The Abyss, but there's two versions of it. There's a theatrical release, which I refuse to watch ever again
Mm-hmm.
because it has a very hastened climax where he goes down to the bottom. He nearly drowns. The aliens save him. They give him breathing space so he can get his helmet off. And then they show him, like, all you do is blow shit up. And then the aliens come up.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I'm sorry. What can we do? And the aliens come up, and you see this giant alien terrarium that was sitting on the bottom. Now it's floating on top, and everything within the area is now sitting on top of this alien landscape, spacecraft, whatever it may be. I have no idea what it is.
There's like a whole fleet that went out there, and
yes,
now they're engulfed by this ginormous alien ship.
And it was so impressive to see that. And then you have no context as to really what happened. But then in the extended version, that scene from where the aliens give him a breathing space, he can get his helmet off and get that water out of his system, which I thought that was probably the best part of the movie, because I like the realism that they brought to the movie, where, like, you've been breathing water earlier in your life for 9 months, you can do it again. And he does it. I don't know if that's a real effect or not. I think that's awesome that you could. But watching that as he's expelling the water from his lungs and just coughing up a good time, that made me so happy to see that in the theaters when I was 14. And then you watch the rest of this endeavor play out on the extended edition as the aliens go through, and they actually have a conversation of sorts, which they can't really speak English, and he can't really speak their watery language, but they get their points across. And it's such a more powerful film than the original. And it really kind of makes you step back a bit, because it's 1989 or 1991 when I saw this. And you have all of these things in play. The Red Storm Rising book is still fresh in your mind. We can blow each other up 8 to 10 times between us and Russia's stockpiles. Who knows what other third world countries could do with their munitions? But it's just a very good movie of what if. And it made for science fiction, it actually does for me more to watch things like The Abyss than it does for me to watch things like They Live or Big Trouble in Little China.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably, if they would have just kind of focused along that line, because at the start of the show, they were doing a very interesting set of theories, and they talk to you about the Red Scare, and they remind you of the 80s. It's just a fantastic time travel that you get to go play with, and you get to see what it was like to live in 1982, 1984 when War Games comes out. And when they talk about The Abyss in 89, at the end of the show, they could have skipped all the womanized comments and all the feminist bull stuff.
Yeah, they could have.
They could have just closed it on The Abyss, and they could have made it this really neat bow. And the big message is, in the 80s, we were worried about the nuclear bomb. We were worried about mutually assured destruction. And they didn't do that. Hey, baby girl. How you doing? You guys have any other, I mean, if you have any other movies, people in the chat, if you have a movie of the 80s that you'd like to discuss, throw it up in the chat, because this is a 2-part series where we looked at movies from 1980 to 1989, a good 10-year golden age of sci-fi, which I feel actually should extend to about 1994, when the special effects for CGI almost fully take over. And very
Robot
rare.
Jocks would be good.
Robot
Yeah.
Jocks?
That was 90, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Technically.
I don't know. I didn't see that one either. Never heard of it. So I can't comment on that. But
See, the actor that played the lead in Alien Nation TV series, he was the lead in Robot Jocks. And he just died 6 months ago, 5 months ago.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching that movie if you wanted to do it, the Alien Nation one, because I haven't.
It's on the list already.
I
It's not
remember
on the
people
official
talking
list, but
about
it's on
it,
the list.
and the same people talking about that movie with the guy from Greece. Don't remember his name right this second. That some movie he was in that was an alien movie. That
Battlefield
was
Earth.
Yeah, Battlefield Earth. I heard that was horrid, so I don't want to really see that one. But
Janet, we have to watch bad movies in order to enjoy good movies. I just want you to
oh
understand
my
that.
God. Okay.
And you know what?
I saw that movie twice. The first time I hated it, and the second time I definitely hated it.
She's panicking right now because she thinks I'm going to pop onto her Willy's Wonderland.
Well, no.
That was a wonderful movie.
I'm just saying. I watched.
Yeah, it wasn't Shakespeare, but for a paycheck movie, it was awesome.
I didn't think it was good at all. It was terrible. But the thing is that there were many good movies that I remember watching. Not all of them were sci-fi, but in the 80s and in the 90s, I remember lots of good movies. It's just that it seemed like us going back and watching some of these things is making me realize and see that slowly over the late 80s and early 90s is when I'm first starting to see the blatant agenda that they were putting into the movies without me realizing it, because I wasn't looking at the who was directing and who was writing and all that. I wasn't looking at any of that before. I was only looking at the movie, for entertainment purposes. But going back and doing this, I've learned a lot about, wow, they really hate us for some reason, and when we're the ones that made them all what they are. But this new stuff that's come to light in 2024, a bunch of those I think are going to have the wind taken out of them, as we were seeing them slowly delete their Instagrams and X accounts.
So much for deleting the past so that they can be unburdened by what they've done.
Yeah, it's sad, but the thing is that what do like parents, like what you said, many times Bruce has said that he didn't get to go see a movie because his mom said, oh, there's too much cussing in it, or it had too much nudity.
I've only seen one Eddie Murphy movie up until the age of 18, and that was because Dad bought the beta of Beverly Hills Cop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bruce should have hung out with my parents, because my parents were like, are you sure you want to watch that? And if I said yes, then let me watch it, with the exception of extreme sex or gratuitous violence.
Well, see,
although whatever passed for TV,
my mom wouldn't let us have was pretty violent. Or she would not. I mean, she found out I watched a couple of vampire movies because my dad was, very lax when it came to that stuff. He would let us pretty much watch anything. If we brought it home, he said, sure, go ahead and watch it. He didn't even look at the box. He didn't care. But my mom was like, what's me see that? She wanted to look at everything that we were watching or what we wore. If our shorts were too short, she wouldn't let us go to the store wearing shorts that were too short. All that. She was very, very particular.
The caveat was what side of the family we were hanging out with. My mom's side of the family, we had some people from back east. If I were to stub my toe and say, damn it, they would say that I'd be condemned to hell for blasphemy.
Yeah.
Blasphemy. Right. Yeah. And then my stepmother, her family were devout Catholic, and this was still during the whole satanic panic. So my cousin wanted to know what board game I was messing with, and I had my friend's copy of Talisman. And so I started showing him some cards of the characters, like the monk, the sorceress, etc. He's like, "Oh, cool." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a fantasy thing with magic and monsters and whatnot." And I forgot I gave them to him to look at. Well, he put them in his pocket. He went home, and his mom saw him and freaked out and threw them in the trash. And he ended up getting a beating for it. And
Oh,
I had to go replace the game for my friend, and it was horrible.
I had a lot of second edition advanced D&D when I was a high schooler, and my mom and dad didn't like it being in the house. So before I left for the Navy, I burned it along with all of my Dragon magazines. I can always get more, brown books, complete book of fighters, the advanced player's handbook. I can always get that, but the Dragon magazine, trying to get those,
That's rough.
Yeah, that was the hardest part about like realizing, nope, those are actually gone. And then a friend of mine showed me on the internet where I could go read all those Dragon magazines I threw away and burned years ago, and that makes me happy.
It's a good consolation to, not having the physical media, I suppose.
Yeah, I want to know what happened to my D&D Dragon or my Dragon magazine complete TSR on CD-ROM, because I used to have
Oh,
that.
yeah, I had one of those too.
I want to know what happened to that. I would love to have that back.
I did that, and the X-Men comics on CD-ROM.
20 years of that, all on CD-ROM. And nowadays,
well, isn't there a way that you can do that? I mean, I know you can take VHS tapes and mail them to companies and get them put on DVDs. They do that kind of stuff.
There's other things out there you can do as well. That I know the company you're talking about, and they're put on Buck and Clay, or Clay and Buck. I know what company you're talking about, and that's a very good thing to do, that you can preserve your memories, because I tell you what, you're going to forget a lot of that stuff nowadays. You're going to forget a lot of it over the course of time, but it's important to be able to preserve those things from back in the day, because otherwise you are going to forget. You are going to have situations where, like, you can't recall a person's name, or you see a wedding album and like there's somebody there standing next to your cousin. Who was your date back in 1987? And you try to jog memories, but the photograph is blurry as hell, because that's the photograph from 1987, 1988. And nowadays we can get those enhanced and sharpened up, and they can look a little bit better in digital format. Sorry.
See this? See these? I found these when I was cleaning my dad's house, and they're paperweights, and they have pictures of my great-great-grandparents in them. And if it wasn't from my parents or my mother writing on the back, I wouldn't know who they were.
Yeah.
And that is what we're going to miss out on. When everything goes digital, you're not going to have stuff like this.
Well, I would love
and it will slowly get memory hold, which is the scary thing. Yeah, so unless you got it stored on backup and off of the internet, away from Wi-Fi, it could just suddenly disappear off your computer one day.
Yeah, just think about it. When we do not have electricity one day, when a pulse happens or something, is it going to be nice to be able to find a stash of those Polaroid cameras, stuff like that? Because once all the phones die and whatever, even if you don't have service, you can still take photographs. But if you can't charge it or download the pictures, you're never going to see them.
3,000 years in the future, the tribes of man have survived the fourth apocalypse. And they're reading freaking TV guides that they picked out of an old mall that was underneath a mountain that was of their sacred deity or whatever.
Yeah, like the movie Planet of the Apes, when they find that cave and they find that the doll, the baby doll,
yeah,
and stuff like that. I mean, we laugh about it. We're now doing time capsules, where people are putting stuff in there in kindergarten and then they dig it up. when in their senior year, things like that, which I think is really cool. I really wish more teachers were hands-on like that with their students, to show the test of time, of how time changes you. Just, even if you grow up in your same town and everything, or move away and come back or whatever, it is interesting, how movies, music, your friends, things that are going on in politics, all that affects who you are.
That was one aspect of the documentary when they were talking about Earth Girls Are Easy, and Julie Brown was saying that they should have shot more locations in the valley, because a lot of that stuff's gone nowadays. And it kind of hit home, because like I remember, the way my hometown looked, and then the earthquake hit, and then like 3 years later, pretty much everything got bulldozed and redone.
It's like Katrina, because they didn't open the levees. There was so much flooding; it did damage it. They lost lots of buildings and landmarks and things that that were iconic for when you drove by. Everybody knew what it was, things like that. But that's what happens. That's why, to me, I think destroying books, even if it's not a book that you agree with, like about the the Civil War or things like that, the facts about things like that, it's important for us to have it, because the only way to protect you from redoing something that you did in your past is by remembering it, so that you don't make those mistakes again. And
learning from the past. If there is no past, like, how are you supposed to know what to look for?
Yeah,
you're just told.
People want to live the history of now. It's all that matters is what's happening right now. That's all that matters. And it's sad to see that, because we got people that they don't care about anything, because they have nothing to look forward to, and they don't care where they came from. Yeah.
They have a low value, low amount of respect for themselves and the things around them.
Yep.
I'm kind of curious. I'm very curious about how things will go in the future for movie making. I don't know if there's going to be another decade worthy of discussing all the movies that take place of a genre, or even all the movies just of a certain decade. The 80s are punctuated, especially in science fiction, by the Red Scare and by the, more importantly, the atomic bomb. The liberals were very scared. The science fiction writers at the time were very scared about the atomic bomb. And I think that is something that pervaded quite a bit through. And
the atomic bomb isn't anything to laugh at, but it's not the most dangerous thing. Like, we're seeing it in education, in entertainment. It starts with the censorship. It continues on with weird ideologies, and then the radicalization, the tribalization. And to segue back to the documentary, when they were talking about all like the dystopian future and whatnot, and all the weird technologies, and we're thinking, oh, like AI is going to kill us and whatnot. And then they flash forward to, at the time, 2022, but all the crazy gadgets and problems that we have now. It's like these science fiction movies of the past 40 years or so kind of like hinted at this weird, I wouldn't say it's completely dystopian future, but it's a dark future for us right now. Like, we're getting into territory where we really shouldn't have treaded in. And it's something to think about.
Yeah, because I don't know, the choices you make today do affect your future. They really do.
Oh, the Running Man, for example.
Yeah.
With the deepfake. Captain Freedom versus Arnie's character. Now they digitally redid the video to make it look like they were both fighting.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and thought, oh my gosh, that'd be scary if that really happened. And the thing is that a lot of people years ago, because I can remember that movie that came out where the husband's wife was murdered and his daughter was severely almost died, and was raped and stuff, and the guy was getting revenge. And there was a couple movies that came out.
Death Wish.
Charles Bronson or something. Is that what his name
Mhm.
was? Yeah, my dad loved
Yeah.
those movies. And my dad said that that's where the future is going. It will be lawlessness, and we will be able to just go out and get revenge when, if somebody does something to your family or steals from you or whatever, you'll be able to go out and take care of it yourself. So my dad would say was going to happen one day, and that we would have, instead of prisons, we would just have giant holes in the ground that were really deep and concreted or whatever, and that we would get a prisoner, they'd be tried and they'd be thrown in with whatever they're wearing, and if their family wanted to feed them, they'd throw food down there to them, they could fight over it. And he said that would be justice. That's the kind of stuff my dad would say. So I don't see that ever happening, but everyone has some point of view about what they think about our justice system. But most people, have horrible systems in their countries. And even though ours is really bad in a lot of areas, especially in corrupt cities where they just have corrupt attorneys and judges and stuff, because there's so much corruption, where you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type of attitude, the good old boys or whatever. That's where you see the most of it, where it's not balanced. Because if a person, I don't care who you are, is caught with so much cocaine, and you're going to sell it, then it doesn't matter who you are, you should go to jail and get the same prison time as another person that did the exact same crime. If it was more fair like that and level, I think it would deter more people from committing these crimes. But they feel like, look at me, I'm rich, I'm famous now, and if I do this, I'll just get a slap on the wrist. They won't do anything to me because heads will roll or whatever, because everybody thinks they're better than everybody else. That attitude. So until we can clean that up and stop doing that, I just don't see how we're gonna get out of that slump, basically. And it affects everything. Just like what we're seeing right now with this whole, scandal that's going on. I don't think it's just going to be in the movie business. I think it's going to be in Hollywood. I think it's going to be in sports, lawyers, judges. I think there's going to be a lot of people implemented in this. If the people that confiscated the stuff actually use it, the real stuff, instead of sitting on it like they did with Hunter's laptop for 4.5 years. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Hope for the best.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just praying and hoping that, that some good prevails, because we really need some. You know what I mean?
This is exactly like the Epstein situation. Mm-hmm. As far as they're rounding up people, they're suppressing the information. Like, if you really wanted to change the situation, you would blast that all over the internet, and then people would see it and then bring it to light.
Well,
and then they would be outed.
Yeah, there was one interview that I played on my show on Friday, and that was, I think it was either the Alex Jones interview, or it was the Jesse Waters interview. Okay. And the thing is that the guy they interviewed, his name's Ian. I can't remember his last name right now, but he has a big channel on TikTok, and he was talking about when they did the arrest. This time they worded it and had trafficking in it and things like that, which they never did on the indictments. Okay, for the other two from the island, that was never in there. There's certain things.
So this must be a roster change then.
I don't know, but I'm hoping, because of the way they handled it this time, that will make a difference. Now, if somebody somehow they're working behind the scenes, and that's why they said they couldn't release it, because they're still investigating. I think that's what they said for the Epstein stuff. If they do end up arresting other people, if they change the way that it was warranted, whatever, I think it make a difference, and then they can't get out. That's why they didn't let him out on bails, because they said he's intimidates people, he's threatened people's lives, and that even though he went 5 days before he was turned himself in, basically he paid off his house and stuff like that. So he'd have something to barter with to be able to get out on bail. And they still denied it. So I think it's good. That's a good sign for me, I think. Because remember, the first time Epstein got put in jail, they let him out. They gave him bail.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been handled a lot different. So just having different people with the means
But
to take
if you
the
look
job
at Diddy,
could be different.
Diddy was a lower level guy than Epstein. Epstein, he had royalty, politicians,
Isn't he
all
a
that.
billionaire?
Doesn't matter.
I know, but
Money's worthless. Remember,
well, to a degree, but he has
Disney loses billions of dollars. They're still in business making
didn't
shit
do
movies for
parties
billions of dollars.
Obama. Okay, so I know that there's got to be some bigwigs in there that hung out with Obama and some other people from other countries. What was that other really, really rich guy that used to fly around and get on and have the Obamas and them on their yacht? You remember that guy?
Richard Branson.
Yeah. Okay. He's a big guy. So what I'm saying is there's some big people going to be involved in this. I really think, and I think they're all
the head guy at Virgin Space.
So Virgin Records too, right?
Virgin everything.
Yeah.
The guy's huge.
I don't know, but I'm just saying I'm praying. I've been praying a lot that this is they're going to handle this a little differently. So
I will believe it when I see it. I'm not totally black-pilled, but
me too. I'm not either, but I'm hoping. That's what I'm saying. I've seen lots of differences this time because I've really been trying to dissect all of this stuff. And there's been some, remember the first thing I said was interesting because when everything happened with Epstein, it was with the FBI and stuff. This has all been Homeland Security. That really threw me for a loop when I saw his house getting raided. I was like, why is Homeland Security doing this? It's just interesting. So I can't wait to see it unfold. Well, it's because I'm thinking that maybe since they've been investigating them since 2009, the FBI, right? And then Homeland goes in, both houses at the same time to get stuff. And then they do have an indictment on them that maybe somebody's pissed up that got denied the run for office again. It decided to go ahead. Let's see some people's heads roll because they knew they weren't involved, in that part of it. So I don't know. We'll see. But when they're all fighting with each other, they're all scratching and fighting and clawing and punching each other out. So I can't wait to see which way this goes. It's going to be interesting. But we shall find out.
Next week. If you want to find out what we're doing next week, I'll tell you right now. We're going to give Miss Janet from Another Planet a chance to try out her brand new yellow.
Oh,
she's going to be wearing that for her role as April O'Neil as we review the very first live action Teenage Mutant Turtles movie.
That's right. I forgot about it. Yep, yeah, I did. I got that out there.
One of the best Jim Henson movies ever. We're going to delve into this film. She's never seen it. I haven't seen it for 8 months.
8 months?
I've watched it probably 20 times in my life. That poor VHS tape at Mom and Dad's house is broken. It's no more. And I've seen that movie probably about 7 times since I left Illinois. And it's such a joy to watch. I'm very happy to be able to share that movie with Janet. If you want to be a part of watching the film with us, go ahead and join my Discord. It's in the channel notes on my main channel. Go ahead and do that. We like to watch these movies. If you have a little bit of background noise in the background, that's okay. If you have if you're there, if you have no bottom, if you have no jaw, and you're trying to slurp up soup with your straw, and it to where I can't hear the fucking movie, I'll put you on mute like any good channel moderator would. But typically we keep our microphones on just to talk about things or hit Bruce pause right here. And we'll do that and we talk about the film. And then afterwards we come in here, we talk about it in front of you. If you want to be part of that, come on in our Discord. It's right there. I've got it listed on my main channel. If there's any questions you have, if there's any questions you have, go ahead, place them in the commentary section. Okay. He says Diddy is behind some murders with Suge.
I believe that he is
And
involved.
he's been on the,
1996.
say it ain't so, right? Been on the fucking FBI radar since 1996. You know what happens when you've been on the radar for almost 30 years, but nobody does anything? There's been a transfer of money somewhere, and he made people very comfortable so he could continue doing what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other excuse for that. Blackmail.
There isn't. Every single one of these shootings and stuff, almost every one of them is that why they were on the radar. Nobody did anything.
They've either spoken with feds in a chat room, or they've been monitoring the online presence, but they don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the hell?
But yeah, I'm excited. I forgot about that one. I didn't know for sure when it was coming, but I do have the yellow jumpsuit for that, so it's gonna be fun.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. This is gonna be just as glorious as the time you wore that nun outfit.
Maybe. That was a good movie. I love that movie. That was fun.
I was thinking of the smock costumes from the 80s. You know, you get the mask and a little plastic tie-on smock, and just do Ninja Turtles dressed like that. That'd be cheesy.
I've seen some really cute ones for kids with the little turtle shells, you know, that they wear.
Yes.
On their bodies. Those are cute.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to seeing this movie with Janet next week. If you guys want to talk about it,
it's gonna be fun.
And Discord, be part of the viewing experience, and then we'll put it on here and discuss it in front of you.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who's hung out with us today on X and on YouTube. And are you on Rumble too?
I am actually broadcasting not on Rumble because we didn't do the first part on Rumble. So I figured out whatever.
Okay. Well,
do the completed one on Rumble.
Because I think there's like 100 and something people that are watching us right now.
108 people.
So that's great. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us while we just talk about the movie that we watched today, or the other half of it, the documentary. So I do recommend it, though. It really was a great documentary. If you love sci-fi and you want to see the 1980s sci-fi information about all these movies, you know, with all the good tidbits about, you know, special effects and scenes, the way that they did the creature costumes, the makeup, and all that stuff, you guys would really like it. So definitely look it up and watch it.
It'll send you down a cinema rabbit hole that you will not regret.
Yeah, it was good. Overall, it was really good. Yeah, what's you guys' overall score? I forgot to ask that.
For this documentary,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it's a 75 out of 100. It did a really good job of getting the majority of the basics down from the early part of the decade. But the latter part of the decade, it got really catty, and I didn't like the discussion from some of the people where it just felt like it was more personal antagonism towards certain individuals. I thought it was all right, but it could have used some tightening up on the editing, and they really should have, like the discussion I had about The Abyss. If they would have wrapped it up like that, I would have scored it easy 85 out of 100. But this is a decent documentary. It doesn't go into depth on the practical effects like I want it to. It doesn't go into depth on the movies that I wanted it to. But for what it does showcase, up until 1987, it does a pretty good job. It misses the big part as to why the Predator is a success it is, and that's because they got rid of the little Frenchman or little guy from Belgium, and they brought in the big man to play the Predator. And that, I just don't understand how you could talk about Predator without talking about Kevin Peter Hall and how he got brought into it and how his mask became so iconic.
The dude's a legend in creature suits and practical effects.
Yeah, it should have focused more on that, I think. They instead of the stuff about the women from outer space, I like Julie Brown as an actress. I don't like her honestly interviewee. What do you think there, Six Nations?
Well, when I first saw it, the first half, I was like, oh yeah, this is like 80, 85 easily. I'm gonna go like 70 with the second half. So yeah, in the ballpark of 70 to 75% on a scale of 100. It missed its mark in the second half. It's not to say that it detracted too much from the overall experience. It was just like now in my 2020s frame of mind, I have the noticing of the stuff, and
Mhm.
it's an interesting filter. You start picking up on things. So yeah, it came out real strong, and it had a good list of films. Like if you pause the movie and just look at the VHS covers, the movies that they don't talk, but they zoom in on such and such a film or that film, and then you look at the ones surrounding it, you're like, oh, interesting. Start jotting those names down, start looking them up. Are they going to be Shakespeare or like Academy Award winning films? Maybe, maybe not. But you're going to find something that you're going to like about it. Even if it's just, this thing was so cheesy and horrible, I laughed my ass off.
Yeah.
Like, it's great.
Mhm.
And science fiction is one of those genres where you can look at retrofuturism, you can look at future technology, like, you know, Star Trek, they had the data pads, like I said earlier, and the communicators, and now we have tablets and cell phones, and it's a cool parallel with reality. Like, good science fiction is rooted in the politics and culture of the time, the fears and aspirations of that culture. And then you got the Italian knockoffs, but that's a whole nother genre right there.
We could spend another couple sessions just talking about Italian sci-fi and Italian post-apocalyptic stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. My score, I was just going to give it an 8 out of 10 because that's normally how I do it. And I would have rated it a little higher than that if it hadn't been for the second half making me feel like they dropped the ball, like they were running out of time or something, because it seemed like the second half wasn't even comparable to the first half due to the fact that it was limp. I mean, it didn't have any gusto behind it. It was just like they lost their momentum or something. And the two people that they chose to use more in the interviewing part of it, of talking about the movies, they pushed their agenda more than they cared about talking about the actual movie and the different things that were going on in the movie to get you to want to watch their movie, basically. So I just thought that was sad that they did that. And the editing, to me, is what I think was the worst thing about this. It seems like they left a lot of good nuggets on the floor in the editing room compared to what they decided to leave in. I just think that's sad because it came out with a bang. I mean, I felt like a little kid in a candy store. I was so excited to get to watch it, and I couldn't wait to watch the rest of it today. I was in here half an hour or 45 minutes early, just so, and it had snacks and everything. So I could sit and watch because I was so excited about it. And it started out really good at the very beginning, but then as it went, the more it went on, the worse I felt like this isn't the same movie. I mean, it's the same show. And it was really let down a little bit towards the ending. But the first half is definitely worth watching this documentary. And there are some good tidbits about a few of the movies. In Predator and a few others, The Abyss, in the second half that are still worth watching it. But those are the only two things that I felt that took the movie down a couple notches. So, but I still recommend it to watch it, and I thought it was great.
I want to say that, like, the second half of the '80s, you have those good films like The Abyss, which is a very intellectual movie. You have Predator, which is a very action packed, back to basics movie, and then you have good films like Invaders from Mars,
Mhm.
Critters 2, and you have those movies which really are kind of a callback to the 1950s alien invasion movies, which are a lot of fun to watch. And there's barely any mention. They have a few clips of Critters 1, a little bit of Critters 2, but you could really go into depth on just the latter half of the 80s, how the alien invasion films kind of got the old formula back, and they did reinvigorate it with some new things. Critters is a very watchable movie still in 2024. I
Mhm.
mean, it's for the fact that you have very shitty movies being produced nowadays
Mhm.
because it's a very, very fun movie to watch. But there's a lot of good movies from back in the day that would not stand so high if today's cream of the crop was so low. The bar is set so low with today's movies,
Mhm.
and it's
I
just
would
kind of interesting because all these movies from the 80s they don't even talk about. They just kind of gloss over them. They could have given that time. You have the actors and actresses from those movies in these interviews, and they could have talked more about the things going on set. Because I would love to hear the making of or watch the making of Critters. I would love to know what Dee Wallace thought of getting to work with Scott Grimes when
Mhm.
Scott's a older teenager. I thought that was when I was a high schooler. Critters 1 was pretty close to my top movies just because of the amount of energy and kineticism they were able to put on screen with the little practical effects.
Mhm.
You really if you know anything about puppetry or if you know anything about doing the special effects, the amount of movement they were able to get out of those little fucking aliens, that was so good. That movie still rates high for me.
Mhm.
It's not a good movie, but for me, knowing
For
them,
entertainment value, though, see
the
that
entertainment
that's what
value is
we're
high.
talking about.
The knowledge of that I've got about practical effects and how to get things rolling, how to get things moving, and give the illusion of an actual tangible alien on screen.
Uh-huh.
That that movie is a classic for me. Maybe not for other people. Maybe for people that figure that Above the Law with Steven Seagal is about as highbrow as it ever gets for him. And they can say highbrow and Steven Seagal in the same sentence. But you have a lot of films that just got glazed over because it feels like this movie, this documentary, the last half of it drops the ball in favor of personal agendas.
Mm-hmm. Because they didn't even talk about They Live.
No.
There was just like you said, there was many other movies that they could have got another actor or two to talk about these a few other of these movies to fill in the void and not give these certain people so much time to throw out the garbage or whatever that they felt from the movies that they were in. Instead of doing that, left it a more upbeat ending about what we wanted to watch a documentary for, anyways, about sci-fi genre movies and why we love them so much. The special effects, the themes, the creatures that they use in them, the costumes, the sets, all those things that people like us would want to watch a documentary for. But instead, we got The View, you know. So I didn't like it. I didn't like those two interviews. I thought they were, if you took them out, I would raise it up to a 9.5, honestly.
What two
So
movies?
if we took those two interviews out, those
Oh.
two women, I could have brought this score up to a 9. But it was like watching The View more than watching a documentary about some movies that we love from the 80s. That was the only thing I didn't like. To me, that's what dropped it as much as it did. But it was still worth watching. I definitely would recommend it to everybody. It's still worth it. The first half is definitely a 10, almost a 10. So I don't even remember rating it last time, but we should have, but we didn't. But it's okay. It's worth it. But Mars Attacks came out in the 80s.
I think it did.
I'd have to look it up. But I thought
No, Mars Attacks came out in 1997. 1997, 1998, somewhere
Yeah, I
around
was
there.
gonna say I thought it was a lot later,
It
but
was mid '90s, and Invaders from Mars
Invaders from
was
Mars
the one that came out in like '88 or something.
Yeah,
so
I don't know. This wasn't a bad show. It definitely was a good watch for 5 hours. The last hour of it really kind of fell off. Not that they ran out of material, but they just kind of ignored it. That's just my own
Yeah.
personal opinion.
yeah, they dropped the ball for sure.
I'm digging the chat.
Mhm.
Cowboys of Moo Mesa, mutated cattle.
Never
They
heard
turn
of
into
it.
aberrations. Do they kill them? No, they set up their own little town and they sheriff it. And one of those quirky little '80s cartoons.
Mm-mm.
It actually is a '92 cartoon.
Was it '92?
Yep, I just wikied it, and I'm like,
Okay,
I'll have to watch this.
What is it?
I thought it was like late '80s. I know my brother watched it,
The Cowboys,
and I started watching it. And I was like, "What the hell is this?"
the Cowboys of Moo Mesa, and it's a
Oh,
But it was cool.
2-ish animated
Never heard of
show
it.
where mutated cows are walking, talking, doing their thing, living in a town as a society, and it's got some very good names in the voice talent.
mhm.
Ruth Buzzy being the one that I recognize because she used to be a stand-up comic, had a very few limited shows where she was on television. But if you were on the East Coast or West Coast a lot, you know who she is because she used to do a fucking great job, and now she's retired. She had a long list of stuff she's done. She had a lot of work, and there's some other really big names on the show.
Wasn't she on the Smothers Brothers or Laugh-In too?
Laugh-In.
Back in the day.
She was on Laugh-In, and
Laugh-In. Yeah.
she's amazing. There's 3 animated series that I want to talk with Janet. Actually 4, but I haven't watched all of the Futurama yet. Futurama's fun for a point up until like season 4 for me. Season 5 kind of got I don't know why it went but it went So I'll get back to it. Right now I'm delving into 90s science fiction with Babylon 5. After this, I plan on watching Space Above and Beyond. And then, of all things, I have to watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm. I like
it's not as bad.
What?
If you think about it, it's the studio that tried to take over Babylon 5. And
Yeah,
J. Michael Straczynski.
Season 4 is kind of rough. Season 5, everything I've read, like there's a lot of drama that happens in season 5 that, like, there's not a point where you can just shut off season 5 like, okay, it's over. You have to watch it to the bitter end. And there's a lot of shit going on behind the scenes, and apparently some of it bleeds onto the camera, which isn't good. But later on,
about Babylon 5, there's a bunch of shit that hit the fan.
Oh yeah, they had it from the very beginning, to be honest. But
and he was able to keep it isolated till season 3.
Who?
The J. Michael Straczynski was the writer, and he's like, "Listen, let me have this at least to season 3, and I can write it to where it's good television. And if you let me do 2 more seasons, I can make great television. But I have to do at least 3 seasons." Yeah. And so he does that. And at season 4, there's starting to be a lot of interference from the studio, and there's people on the show that they're great actors and actresses, but they are not good off camera. They're self-destructive. Yeah. And I crush on Claudia Christian at any age. At any age. If you watch The Hidden, you know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Which one is she?
She's Susan Ivanova. She's the Russian, the third most important person on the Babylon 5.
Yeah. Okay, the brunette.
Yes.
Okay.
She did a lot of voice work in Skyrim too.
Yeah, she's got a lot of voice work in Skyrim. She's just a very busy lady. She quit alcohol because her character started suffering because of her performance in season 4, and so she requested to go off, and she did rehab while they were filming season 5. They brought in another lady, the lady that J. Michael Straczynski was boffing at the time, took over kind of her spot on the ship. Yeah. And it works out narratively from what I can see, but
It's not as good
yeah, that's the
because
problem.
Ivanova is like badass, and it's hard to replace her. And then like contractual problems at that point prevented her. Like they couldn't work her back end, so
No,
they went with the other lady.
yeah, Lyda Alexander is the character that they bring in instead of Ivanova. Ivanova's character, or Ivanova was a very good, strong Russian woman in this show, and she had a lot of good qualities, and she had flaws that made her more watchable. The replacement she had is not as entertaining to watch. It's not, and I'm not basing that on anything about physicality, as both ladies, if they were to hit on any guy here in the chat or in panel, would probably get a hard on and be like, let's go home. And that, I mean, that's all there is to it. Like, they're very attractive ladies. Like that's just it. There's not a debate here. There's not a sale going on. There's a claim, and that's all women have to do for the most part. But it's just one of those things that the characters that they had, Susan Ivanova was so much better. She's such a strong character, and I can see in season 4 her performance is getting kind of shaky. So I'm not really happy with it, but that is what it is. They did fix things with Babylon 5 later by making like 6 or 7 direct TV movies. And
Thanks for getting that, Janet.
You're welcome.
it's
I got to log into YouTube to do that.
Just block the guy.
Time consuming.
Oh, the little faggots back in the chat again.
Yeah, I've blocked him from my channel, from my whole channel. So hopefully he'll never be able to ever put anything on my channel again.
Let's see what happens here. Okay. So
worst case scenario, we block him again.
Yeah, no big deal. But I like B5. Season 3 for me was the apex of it. I hate to say that that's how like for me so far. I can't do science fiction over 3 seasons because after that, like, cracks appear. That was my
it's
problem.
The Empire Strikes Back of the series.
Yeah, and like The Expanse had 5 or 6 seasons, but this 3rd season for me was fantastic. In season 4, they had a bunch of money put in, but the script quality went downhill. And then worse, in season 5, they never regained their greatness from season 2 and 3. And season 6 was just like only 6 episodes. And everything just was speed run to the very end. Let's wash our hands of it, blah, blah, blah. Just garbage. Just garbage.
Excuse me.
Yeah, the first season I thought was the best to me. It's because the story, what it was built around, and the person who found the evidence was no longer in it. I just hate it when they do that. But I did like The Expanse. After the 3rd season, I think they got rid of the one pilot because he was a child molester or something in real life. So the guy that looked like he was from like Saudi Arabia or something. I can't remember what his name is.
Which show?
From The Expanse.
From The Expanse?
Yeah.
Your season 4, between season 4 and season 5, the event happened. And then the filming of season 6, Cass Anvar is who you're talking about.
Yeah, I think so.
In season 6, he got killed off because they just couldn't deal with whatever problems they had. And that's just how it is. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's really that bad of a person. I've seen him work on other stuff. He was on Star Trek Continues.
I've seen him in other things.
There was no problem reported from Star Trek Continues. Even
the actor that played the lead in the whole show, I don't remember seeing him in other things. I think he was a singer or something, wasn't he?
I don't remember. Dang it.
But his right-hand man, I thought he was great. I loved his character. It was a really good series. Have you seen Ted Lasso? I've been enjoying it a lot. It's got a lot of mostly British people in it, but it's two Americans that go to England to be coaches for a major football team, but football over there is soccer. So it's like a comedy type thing. It's sports comedy, but it's funny, and it was really, really good. I love Beard. I love his character, the second guy. So that's another show you might want to watch.
Okay.
Because it's
I just found
started its fourth season. Just found what?
I didn't hear what he said.
I don't know. He broke up. He stopped.
Okay. Internet issues. Remember yesterday, him and Crafty.
There we go.
There he goes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I was trying to look for it, and I forgot that StreamYard on Brave doesn't stream like YouTube. Anyways, I was downloaded a British series about a hitman. I saw the short that it was based off of.
Yeah, what's it called?
And that's what I was looking for before I cut out. When I find it, I'll let you know. But it's done up in a documentary style of this guy just being a horrible person and trying to balance his family life while being a horrible person.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps up about everything discussion-wise I have on the bullet points for today. Six Nations, do you have anything you'd like to add about this documentary you watched, or with other movies within the time frame that they kind of outlined? Is there anything that you particularly of note need to address?
Oh, there's a ton of cool horror movies from the 80s.
I believe there's an actual.
That would be the next documentary. I was going to segue into that.
Oh, there is another documentary about the horror movies?
In Search of Horror or whatever.
Yeah.
I think they also did action, or they're working on action. Mm-hmm. I'm not entirely sure. There's actually a couple of people that like movies that are doing kind of a similar thing. I might be confusing those with that.
Are you talking about In Search of Darkness?
Was it In Search of Darkness? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one with the horror movies.
David A. Weiner, the same guy that produced this.
Okay, well, that means it would be good then.
Yeah. He's got a In Search of Darkness trilogy, which has a 14 plus hours long form 2019 documentary film In Search of Darkness, and the sequels In Search of Darkness Part 2, In Search of Darkness Part 3. There's a 5-hour 2022 documentary on sci-fi cinema, which he does In Search of Tomorrow. And then he executively produced the Aliens Expanded 4-hour documentary about the Aliens movie itself. Holy shit.
Interesting.
Yeah, that
cool. And then we got that whole The Thing documentary that they're working on.
There's a Thing documentary that we need. We'll have to get a hold of that.
Wow, there is a shit ton of people in this.
Yeah.
Cast wise, I'm going through the list right now.
Yeah, In Search of Darkness looks big. I wonder if I could find that the same way I found the other one.
I don't know. Right now, I'm just on Wikipedia, so it's pretty good. But I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
So my background was primarily horror films. I grew up on that. That was my bread and butter from when I was a babe.
Yeah, and I love vampires.
The Bay Area had its own creature features with originally Bob Wilkins. He was awesome. Took over by John Stanley. I was old enough to recognize John Stanley, but I saw reruns of Bob Wilkins. Like if you can go on YouTube and look at some of his stuff, it's classic. He's got an awesome dry humor. He's always sitting there smoking a cigar in his yellow rocking chair. But in the background, keep America strong. Watch horror movies. That was like the mantra.
Yeah.
Because in bad times we have more horror movies. People will need that release. So there's a plethora of movies from the 70s and 80s. And I sound like a broken record whenever I say it, but God damn it, check it out. You're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Technically, there's going to be some bad ones. There's going to be some stinkers. But if you can shrug it and laugh it off, you'll enjoy it.
Okay. Janet,
Mm-hmm.
what would you like to say, add, or discuss in part as we close today's video in search of tomorrow?
Well, I want to just tell everybody, I recommend if you are like sci-fi and you want to see a little bit about how they came up with ideas to make some of these movies, with the ins and outs of making the movies, finding the actors, finding locations, who's going to direct and who's going to make the creatures and do the makeup and stuff like that, and also who was going to star in their creature movies or sci-fi movies, then this documentary is definitely for you. I think you'd really enjoy it because most of this all did come to life and become a huge booming business in the 80s. So it's very well done. I thought it was a really, really entertaining, except for the two sections that I didn't like towards the end. But up until then, it was, I just loved it. I was applauding and a giddy kid getting to watch a wonderful popcorn feature is what it was like to me. And it's definitely worth it. So get a few of your friends together and sit back and enjoy it for, what was it, 6 hours almost?
Yeah, 5 hours and 8 minutes.
So I definitely recommend you watch it.
Thank you, baby girl. Thank you for everybody that came by, even those of you that kept on making derogatory comments and kept getting booted. I don't know why. One seems to work with the other, though, if you are a shithead.
Helps with the algorithm, so overall it's good.
Wasn't it the same person?
Yeah, he's just making us more popular, that's all. Appreciate you all being here today, even those aforementioned. For those of you that made suggestions, we are putting a list together for spring of next year, and looking forward to seeing that Discovery, The Cowboys of Moo Mesa. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Crafting Gamer, for being a member for the past 11 months. I might want to give that a shout out as well. And for those of you that came by, if you like what you see here between me and Janet, Six Nations, whatever channel you're on, like, share, subscribe. It helps with the algorithm. I don't really worry about that, but I would like to see if there is some growth here. That if there is growth to be had, yeah, let's try it. I'm not worried about it. This is a great hobby, and I appreciate the time that Janet and Six Nations give me every week. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Be well, everyone.